Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are going to start a brand new series on the channel as we continue our Heroes of the Morphing Grid series with Jujutsu Kaisen Curse of Daishi, Part 1. As always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting stats to come out now and in the future. So here with this story, we are doing a crossover between Jujutsu Kaisen and Power Rangers Jungle Fury. My reason for this pairing is that I think the idea of the animal spirits and the cursed spirits is a pretty good merger of the two shows in my opinion. I think not only having Sukuna to deal with but also Daishi can prove to make for a good dichotomy, a bit of a three-way deadlock if you will, in a race to see which faction will come out on top. Will it be the cursed spirits? Will it be the spirit animals? Or will it be the Jujutsu sorcerers? In this three-way deadlock, we see Yuji Itadori merging the power of the Power Rangers along with his cursed spirit energy. But will he be able to focus and channel everything within? And even still, how will he be able to handle the dark forces that loom around him? Not only from the cursed spirits, but from those of the Beast King himself, Daishi. As Yuji channels his cursed energy, the spirit of the tiger runs through him. And now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we begin Jujutsu Kaisen Curse of Daishi, Part 1. Yuji Itadori would slowly awaken as he found himself in a rather small and secluded room, lit only by candlelight. As he looked around and he tried to move his arms and legs, he had realized he had been bound to a chair, his arms restrained and tied with rope. As he got a closer look at his surroundings, he would see that there were talismans everywhere, before finally settling down and realizing that there was someone in front of him. A guy dressed in all black, his eyes covered, and with white hair. The man would introduce himself as Satoru Gojo, and he would explain to Yuji Itadori that his fate had unfortunately been decided and that he was going to be secretly executed. For Yuji Itadori, he tried to understand what was happening. How on earth had he gotten here? How had he gotten into this situation? And how was his life about to change in ways that he could never imagine? Well, it all started earlier that day. Yuji was at school, doing what he normally did, hanging out with his friends in the occult research club. Of course, he was physically gifted. He could have gone out for sports and could have done fairly well for himself, but Yuji didn't care about such things. The only thing he cared about was his friends and his only family, that being his grandfather. Although sadly, later on that evening, his grandfather would pass away tragically, dying in the hospital. For Yuji, the one thing that was always on his mind was the idea of death. What was a proper death, and could one die in a proper way? At least that was something that he had always wondered to an extent. His grandfather had warned him to make sure that he did good things, so that when his time came at the end, he'd have people there for him. But just because you did nice things, that didn't mean that people had to be there for you. But still, Yuji tried to take his words to heart. As he was preparing to leave the hospital, he was confronted by another young student. Although he didn't go to Yuji's school, his name was Megumi Fushiguro. He was a Jujutsu sorcerer from Tokyo Jujutsu High. He had been following Yuji because he had sensed a powerful presence upon him. He was searching for something known as a special grade cursed object. These were cursed objects, normally used to shield off the world from other curses. However, the one that Yuji had taken was one that was very powerful and dangerous. They were known as the Fingers of Sukuna, Ryumen Sukuna, one of the most powerful cursed spirits in history. Unfortunately, Yuji revealed that he didn't actually have the cursed object on him, just the box it came in. And that meant that Megumi had merely spent his time tracing off the residue of cursed energy. The two would rush back to the school immediately, as Yuji explained his friends were going to stay back and attempt to open whatever the cursed object was. As they made their way, they would find Yuji's friends being attacked by literal monsters, or more precise, cursed spirits. Megumi would attempt to fend them off. Being a Jujutsu sorcerer, he was capable of wielding his own cursed energy. He was able to summon his cursed animals to fight on his behalf. But among them all, as the curses grew more and more powerful, Megumi had no choice but to summon his most powerful spirit. He channeled his cursed energy, and a blue aura surrounded him as he yelled out for the spirit of the jaguar. Instantly, an aura of blue would morph into that of the jaguar itself as it lunged and attacked at the cursed spirit. Yuji would come in for the assist, helping to free his friends as they attempted to make their escape. As Yuji tried to give back the finger to Megumi, they would be attacked by even more and powerful cursed spirits along the way. Yuji found himself struggling to free him, trying to escape from the clutches of the cursed spirit. As he did so, the finger would find itself flying in the air. Yuji had always been someone of immense strength, even despite not having any real experience with using cursed energy. Even Megumi could tell that. But there was something else about him. Something he couldn't quite put his fingers on. As Yuji fought with the cursed spirit, his arms and legs would be restrained, but even still he continued to fight. He knew there was a deep power. He could feel something within him swelling up, like a flame that was about to burst. He just couldn't quite put his finger on it. He couldn't quite grasp what he was looking for. That was, until with no choice, with his arms and legs restrained, he would grab the cursed finger of Sukuna, grabbing it with his mouth, before eventually having no choice but to swallow it. Megumi would panic. He knew that in all likelihood Yuji's body wouldn't be able to handle the power, and that it would destroy him from the inside out. And for a while it seemed as though that's what had happened when Yuji went still. But then, it was almost as if it were a 1 in a million chance. Megumi saw a miracle, and a curse. Yuji would be covered in black markings. His nails would grow and turn black. 2 more eyes would emerge from under his regular ones. And he would suddenly have immense strength, as a red aura surrounded him. This red aura taking on that of a tiger that had been let loose. Yuji would scratch and claw away at the curses around him until finally he was free. But this was not Yuji Itadori. This was Ryomen Sukuna, finally free, having incarnated himself. He had now found a vessel. So, I'm finally free. Oh yes, this is what I've been waiting for. And I can feel this boy has a powerful spirit within him. I won't mind taking it for myself. It's so great that I've been reborn back into this era. The women, the children. Oh yes. This is... Wait. That can't be right. Hey. Get back in there, you. Ow. Why did you do that? Ow. Hey. Get... Ow. You little... Megumi had no idea what he was watching. It looked as though he were fighting with himself. Suddenly, though, his arms would fall to his side. The extra eyes would close and the markings would disappear. It seemed as though Yuji had finally returned and everything was back to normal. Megumi would attempt to follow the code. As stated in Jujutsu law, Yuji Itadori was now a curse, and he must be exorcised. Of course, though, Megumi, as he attempted to attack Yuji Itadori, he would be in for a rude awakening as Sukuna would take over once again. Sukuna was surprised to see what Megumi was capable of, especially when he summoned his spirit, the Jaguar spirit. This then reminded him of something, as he looked towards the Jujutsu sorcerer. When I last existed, you sorcerers weren't capable of using animal spirits. That was left to those of the Pai Shui. So tell me, since the last time I've existed on this earth, what has happened to Daishi? At that very moment, there would be a loud crash on the roof, as someone else would have now finally arrived. It was none other than Megumi's sensei, one of the most powerful Jujutsu sorcerers in the world, Satoru Gojo. Oh man, Megumi, you look like you've been beat up pretty bad. Where the hell were you, Gojo? Oh, I was just off looking for the cursed spirit, Daishi. And, well, there were some difficulties, but there's no need to worry about that right now. Hey, what's going on with this guy? That is Yuji Itadori. He swallowed the cursed finger of Sukuna. Oh, and he's still alive? Well, ain't that interesting? A real vessel. Now this changes things greatly. You there. Who, me? Oh, yeah, that's me, Satoru Gojo, at your service. Tell me, am I speaking to Yuji Itadori, or am I speaking to Sukuna? Uh, yeah, it's me, Yuji. Sorry about that. He kinda just gets out of hand sometimes. Oh, no worry about it, my friend. Hey, hold this for me, will ya, Megumi? What the? Those are the really good ones. I thought you were looking for the Daishi. You were just off getting souvenirs? Those aren't just any souvenirs, my young ward. But still, you can have some later if you want. Now, back to you, Mr. Itadori. You think you can get Sukuna to come out again? Yeah, I think so. But, are you sure that's safe? I mean, he seems to do a lot of damage. Oh, don't worry. I just need you to hold him out for about 10 seconds. Besides, he couldn't kill me anyway. Okay, if you say so. Okay, enough of that shit. Alright, Jujutsu Sorcerer, Satoru Gojo. You wanted to see what I was capable of? Well, fine then. Let me show you. Sukuna and Gojo would exchange with one another in a flurry of taijutsu, the two of them matching one another in terms of their martial arts. Gojo was able to dodge all of Sukuna's attacks. Even with his power, Sukuna wasn't able to do any damage against him. As the seconds ticked down, from 1 to 2, to 3 into 4, to 5 into 6, Sukuna made no progress. In his anger, Sukuna decided to catch him off guard. Oh, the hell with it! You want to see my power? Well, here! You can have it! Sukuna would let off a discharge of the spirit energy within him. A red tiger, the aura of the beast, would come flying towards Satoru Gojo. However, Gojo would merely point his finger towards the incoming beast. Wolf Spirit. Great Purple. Curse. Instantly, the spirit of the wolf would emerge from Satoru Gojo. As the two spirits collided with one another, it seemed as though they were even with power, although it only seemed that way, until the spirit of the tiger was engulfed by the spirit of the wolf, and Sukuna was easily knocked back and knocked out. Megumi couldn't believe what he was seeing. He had always knew that his master was a monster, but this was something else. With that, they would pick up Yuji Itadori, and they would bring him back to a private holding cell, where we are today. Everything would be explained to Yuji Itadori. He was now something entirely different. Being able to hold the power of Sukuna essentially made him a vessel. Of course, the higher-ups merely wanted him killed now, but Satoru Gojo believed that they could do so much more, so much better. Instead of focusing on the old ways and the old traditions, why not try something new? Besides, Yuji was already going to die either way regardless. Why not let him take all of Sukuna? Once they did that, then they could execute him and get rid of Sukuna once and for all. Die now or die later. That was his choice. For Yuji, he had a lot to think about. He wondered if this was really what he wanted to do. But honestly, it didn't take him much thought. And the next thing he knew, he found himself already coming to his decision. He agreed he would help hunt down all of Sukuna, and then his time would come. Satoru Gojo was pleased, happy to see someone who was a free-minded person such as himself. This was the kind of thinking that he wanted from his students. Yuji would be given time to say his goodbyes, checking on his friends and making sure they were okay, before going to collect the ashes of his grandfather after he had been cremated. He made his peace at the grave, and they made their way to Jujutsu Tech in Tokyo. Once they had arrived, Yuji would meet with the principal of Jujutsu Tech, and he would have to give a reasonable explanation as to why he wanted to attend. Of course, it had to be beyond the superficial, not just merely wanting to do something for the sake of doing it. And for a moment, Yuji, he was a bit hesitant. Was he really sure of what he wanted to do? Was this really the best fit for him? Of course, there was no need for him to actually go out and actually hunt the fingers of Sukuna. He was merely the vessel. He could just stay back and relax, and just wait. Why put his life on the line unnecessarily for people that he didn't even know? And for a moment, Yuji wasn't sure of that answer, but then he came up with one. This was something that only he could do. Granted, he didn't have to do anything. He didn't owe the world anything at all. This wasn't his problem. That was what he could tell himself. But then, more bad things would happen. Bad things that could have been avoided had he done something. Yuji had already accepted his fate. If he was going to die, he was going to do it on his own terms. And there was nothing that anyone could do to change that. Satisfied with the answer, Yuji would be accepted. Although when he made his way to the dorms, he was surprised to learn that only he and Megumi were there. Gojo explained that there weren't that many of them, and in fact, they were going to go out and pick up the first year. Yuji finally being given his uniform, they would go off to the train station, and there, they would meet their third and final classmate, a girl from the countryside now moving to the big city itself. Her name was Nobara Kugisaki. The girl was short-tempered and very outspoken, and she didn't think very much of her classmates or her sensei for the most part. But the idea of being able to go out to Tokyo, well, that piqued her interest at the very least. But before the three could do anything, Gojo took them somewhere else. He took them to a private field, far off from the city, where they could be secluded. Once they were, he had something that he wanted to show them. The students would watch as Gojo would pull up his sleeve, revealing something attached to his wrist. It looked like a device, purple with gold and silver trim, and it had 3 claw marks on its center plate like a logo. Gojo asked if they had ever seen this before, and of course none of them had. He explained that this was called a morpher, and using this, it will allow them to truly draw out the power of their spirits. They asked what he meant by this, and Gojo would briefly explain a bit of history for them. You see, in this universe, the Power Rangers actually did exist, although they weren't exactly the same as you would know them today. The Rangers were the type of people that existed long ago. They were a big thing in America, but they had long since died off and retired. However, there was someone who was still around, an old friend. Gojo had gone off to America and gotten into contact with this individual. And after doing some research and some work, studying the power of cursed spirits as well as that of spirit animals, they were able to figure out a way to tap into the morphing grid via cursed energy. And in doing so, they were able to draw upon it, morphing their animal spirits into a ranger form. Gojo would demonstrate. Using his morpher, he used his wolf spirit and he morphed into the purple wolf ranger. The energy that he gave off was tremendous. They were surprised that he was still this much more powerful. Gojo would demorph instantly. Of course, for him, he only morphed when he absolutely had to, when it was necessary. That said a lot, that going up against Sukuna, he didn't feel the need to morph at all. That really was a testament to his power. But of course, for them, going up against cursed spirits of all shapes and sizes, they were going to need all the help that they could get. He pulled out a box, and inside were 3 sunglasses. Each one would take a pair out. Yuji the red, Megumi the blue, and Nobara the yellow. It finally dawned on them to ask her what her spirit animal was. She laughed at them smugly, before explaining that she was the cheetah, for she was the fastest of them all, and her determination and drive were second to none. Of course, the 2 boys merely looked at her, thinking she was entirely full of herself, but that was neither the case here nor there. They would be given the sunglasses, and they would be told the command sequence in order to morph. All 3 of them stood together side by side, taking a deep breath, as Gojo sat on a stump and watched, waiting to see what they were capable of. All 3 of them, getting some distance and standing together, would move as one, doing the hand sign in unison. Jungle Beast, Spirit, Unleash! Their auras would come blazing around all 3 of them, red, blue, and yellow. They would be enveloped by an ominous glow, and before they knew it, they had transformed, each one into the Jungle Fury Rangers. As they all stood together looking at one another in their new power-ups, they could feel it coursing through them. They could feel the amplification of it. Now Gojo stood up and applauded them for their efforts. But now came the fun part, combining their spirit animal with that of their cursed spirit. That was when Yuji Itadori had to ask, what was the difference between the spirit animal and the cursed spirit? Gojo would then briefly have to explain more history to them. He would tell them that about 2,000 years ago, there were factions in the earth. There were the cursed spirits, there were the animal spirits, there were the Jujutsu sorcerers, and there were the Paishwa masters. Each one was a different sect in their own right, as each one practiced their own usage of spirit power. For Jujutsu sorcerers, they used cursed spirit energy, that being energy that came from the negative side of the spirit. Paishwa masters used the power of spirit animals, more of the positive, if you will. For the animal spirits themselves, they were able to draw on the power of the animal spirit. However, it came from a place of negative energies. And then finally, there were cursed spirits who drew upon the negative energies of the world in general. There was an all-out war among the factions long ago. However, among the two factions of the animal spirits and the cursed spirits, there were two that stood out above the rest. For the cursed spirits, the king of curses, Ryomen Sukuna. And for the animal spirits, it was none other than the king of beasts, Daishi. The two were able to rival one another in power, so much so that the sorcerers and even the Paishwa masters were not strong enough to stop them. However, there was a young man who was a Jujutsu sorcerer, and a young woman who was a Paishwa student. They fell in love and had a child. The child that was born had the capabilities of using not only cursed energy, but could also summon a spirit animal. With the merging of these two powers, he was able to stand toe-to-toe against both Sukuna as well as Daishi. This led into what was known as the 100 Years Deadlock. It was a three-way battle between the three great powers. The Paishwa Jujutsu Master, Daishi, and Sukuna. They fought for 100 years, neither one being able to overtake the other, until finally the Paishwa Master, giving his life and all of his spirit, he was able to defeat Sukuna, sealing him away within his 20 fingers, as Sukuna has 4 arms. And as for Daishi, he too was sealed away. Upon doing this, the two orders agreed to merge and join as one, Jujutsu and Paishwa. When the two combined, it gave them a power strong enough to fight against the forces of the world. And ever since then, that was how Jujutsu tech worked. They were taught by those to use cursed energy, as well as how to channel and summon their own animal spirit. For Megumi, his cursed technique was that of the 10 shadows, allowing him to summon shadows and create Shikigami, that being from the divine dogs, to the Nue, to the great serpent, to the toad, to the max elephant, the escaped rabbit, all in all. But his greatest ability was that of his spirit animal, the jaguar. For Nobara, her curse technique came in the form of the straw doll technique, allowing her to utilize Jujutsu through a set of tools, which appeared in her ranger uniform as a tool belt by her side, including her hammer, her nails, and her straw doll. By channeling her cursed energy through the tools, Nobara could utilize a number of different techniques, including sharing damage between herself and her opponent via the straw doll. And then there was Yuji Itadori. He was still new to all of this, not having any real formal training, but for himself, his power seemed to be that of just pure raw strength. If he could focus and channel it properly, then he could definitely be a powerhouse. Gojo would then go on to train his students, allowing them to get a feel and a mastery over their power. About 2 weeks had passed, and they had done a fairly good job. They had even been able to take out some low-level cursed spirits throughout town. But then, the day had finally arrived. Gojo had something that he needed to do, and so his students were going to have to go and take care of something on their own. In West Tokyo City, a situation had occurred at a detention center. A special grade cursed spirit had emerged, slaughtering almost all of the prisoners there. As the 3 students, would go off the face against the spirit. Satoru Gojo had his own issues. As he made his way to an ancient temple, he had been on the search for the box containing the cursed spirit of Daishi, the leader of the spirit animals and the king of the beasts. However, as he made his way inside, he realized he had been beaten to the punch. Well. It seems I'm not the only one looking for Daishi. So just tell me, who are you? Gojo was faced by a woman of great beauty, with her hair tied in a bun. She had herself surrounded by henchmen, known as the Renshi. You can call me Camille. It's nice to finally make your acquaintance, Satoru Gojo. Or should I say, the Wild Wolf. I go by many names. But listen, I'm gonna need that box you're holding there. I bet you do. She called 5 of her Renshi forward, causing them to morph and transform into monsters. I think you'll find, Jujutsu sorcerer, we animal spirits are not the same as we used to be. And the day that you underestimate us will be the day that you die. Gojo merely looked up, cracking his neck as he smiled. The 5 animal spirit monsters in front of him, foaming and looming at the mouth, ready to destroy him. He got into a stance as he prepared for battle. This is gonna be fun. As Gojo engaged with the monsters, Yuji, Nabora, and Megumi would make their way inside of the detention center, unaware of the darkness that loomed and waited for them. This concludes Jujutsu Kaisen, Curse of Daishi, based on the Heroes of the Morphing Grid series, Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned next week as we will be continuing What If Deku Was Iron Man? My Hero Academia Armored Adventures, Part 7. Anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.